The steam curled lazily from my coffee mug, the only thing stirring in the quiet of my kitchen at 6:30 a.m. on a crisp October morning in 2024. Outside my window in the small town of Pine Hollow, Oregon, the sun was just starting to burn the mist off the Douglas firs lining the hills. I'd been a lineman for 42 years, climbing poles through storms and heat, but retirement had traded the buzz of high-voltage wires for the soft chirp of sparrows and the gentle ripple of water against the shore of Willow Creek. My heart, though, was always 50 minutes down a winding gravel road at the little creekside cabin my father built with his own hands back in 1959. It wasn't much, just cedar walls, a creaky porch, and an old fridge that hummed like it was singing itself to sleep. But it was everything. It was home. Then my phone buzzed, rattling against the countertop. I figured it was my neighbor Carl, a quiet guy who only called about the annual trout fishing contest. "Morning, Carl," I started, but his voice cut me off, tight with panic. "Tom, you gotta get out here now. They're tearing it down." My brain couldn't make sense of it. Tearing what down? A shed? A tree? "Carl, slow down. What's going on?" A sickening crunch echoed through the phone, like a machine chewing through wood and stone. "Your cabin, Tom. They've got a bulldozer. It's gone." The coffee mug slipped from my hand, shattering on the tile. I didn't even feel the shards at my feet. My mind was a fog of static. The drive to Willow Creek was a blur of green forest and gray road. It had to be a mistake, a cruel prank. Maybe they were clearing the lot next to mine. But the closer I got, the heavier the dread sank in my gut, like a stone pulling me under. When I turned onto the final stretch of gravel, I saw a glossy new sign staked into the ground. Willow Creek Homeowners Association. Private property. An HOA? In 65 years, we'd never had one. This was a place of handshakes and trust, not bylaws and clipboards. Then I looked past the sign, and my breath caught like a fist in my chest. Where my cabin should have been was a raw, churned-up scar of dirt. Splintered wood, broken glass, and twisted metal lay in a heap, like trash. The stone chimney my dad and I rebuilt a decade ago was a pile of rubble. The old oak with the tire swing was gone, its stump jagged like a broken bone. A massive yellow bulldozer idled nearby, its claw caked with the remains of my life. I stumbled out of my truck, engine still running, and walked toward the wreckage. A woman in a crisp blazer, heels sinking into the mud, strode toward me with a clipboard. I barely saw her. My eyes were locked on the ruin. I kicked off my boots and socks, needing to feel the cold, damp earth where my porch used to be. A shard of glass from the kitchen window sliced my heel, but I didn't care. I saw a scrap of the red checkered tablecloth my wife, Ellen, loved. Then, in the debris, I spotted a charred wooden picture frame. I pulled it out, hands shaking. The glass was gone, but the photo inside was mostly intact. Me dad, grinning wide, holding a 5-year-old me on his shoulders in front of the cabin, its fresh cedar glowing in the 1962 sunlight. I gripped the frame until my knuckles whitened. A sharp voice cut through. "Sir, this is an active work site. Step back." I turned to see the woman, tapping her pen like she owned the place. "Who are you?" I asked, voice barely a rasp. "Lydia Harper, president of the Willow Creek HOA," she said, smug as if that explained it all. This structure was abandoned, on land reclassified as an HOA greenbelt. Abandoned? I'd been here 3 weeks ago. I paid my taxes every year. "This is my land," I said, voice steadying. "My family's owned it for 65 years. She sighed, dismissive, and handed me a thick sheet of paper from her folio. "Notice of encroachment and forfeiture, Mr. Larson. Signed and notarized 10 months ago. The land's ours." I stared at the document stamps, signatures, legal jargon. But the date, December 12th, 2023. I wasn't served anything. My mail comes to my house in town. The county knows where I live. This was a lie. Fraud. Lydia's smug smile said she expected me to fold, to be a tired old man she could bulldoze as easily as my cabin. She didn't know who she was dealing with. I looked at the photo in my hand, then back at her cold eyes. "You picked the wrong guy," I said, low and steady. She didn't know my brother ran cybercrime for the FBI. My sister audited fraud for the DOJ. My nephew was a surveillance tech with SWAT training. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. I didn't go home. The quiet there would have suffocated me. Instead, I drove to my niece Laura's farmhouse, 25 minutes away. Laura, my late brother's daughter, was a title investigator who lived for untangling property disputes. She took one look at my face and the charred frame and hugged me tight. I told her everything, voice flat with exhaustion. She didn't offer pity, she offered a plan. "Let's hit my office," she said, leading me to a sunroom packed with maps and monitors. She pulled up the county recorder's archives, and there it was, my 1959 deed, my dad's signature clear as day. "You're still the owner of Parcel 9C, Laura said. "No transfer." Relief hit, but it faded fast. How did they pull this off? She dug deeper, and after a tense 10 minutes, she froze. There it is. A scanned voluntary release form, dated December 12, 2023, with my signature shaky but convincing. Except I was in surgery that day, unconscious at St. Joseph's Hospital, having my appendix out. I couldn't have signed it. It was fraud, plain and simple. The grief turned cold, sharp. "They thought I wouldn't check," I said. "They picked a day they knew I was down." Laura nodded. "Big mistake. I called my family not for comfort, but for work. My brother, Mike, a 30-year FBI cyber forensics veteran, said, 'Send me everything. I'll trace the HOA's money.' My sister, Claire, a DOJ fraud examiner, said, 'Scan that form. I'll check the notary.' My nephew, Ethan, a private surveillance expert, said, 'Give me the coordinates. I'll get eyes on the property.' We didn't yell or rush. We built a case, piece by piece, like wiring a house right. Ethan struck first, finding gas station footage from December 12, 2023, showing Lydia Harper meeting a county official in a parking lot, exchanging a file for a thick envelope. Not proof of a bribe, but a thread to pull. Claire found the notary, Elena Morales, had her license revoked in 2020 for misconduct. Every document she stamped was worthless. Mike uncovered the HOA wasn't registered in Oregon, just a shell called Summit Holdings LLC, tied to Lydia's brother-in-law, Victor Harper, and his firm, Blue Ridge Construction. Ethan's drone footage showed the full horror, my 180 acres carved into 175 plots, orange stakes marking future vacation homes, security trucks blocking the road. Claire found an investor pitch on an unsecured server, projecting $6.8 million in sales from publicly assumed land at zero cost. We filed a federal fraud notice, quiet but deadly, and gathered sworn statements from other victims. An elderly couple hit with a fake lien, a family buried in bogus fines. The net was tightening. Then came the break. Intercepted emails from Lydia to Victor, urging him to expedite clearing Larson's parcel, and calling me a squatter. They thought their forged notary was airtight. They were wrong. Laura and I hit the county courthouse, a musty old building in Redmond. The clerk, Martha, confirmed no demolition permits existed for my land. "Lydia was here months ago, demanding reclassifications," she whispered. "No paperwork, just attitude." Another crack in their armor. We tracked Elena Morales to a dive bar in Bend. Mike and I went in, ordered beers, and waited. When the place emptied, Mike slid a $100 bill across the counter. "We're not here for trouble," he said. "Just a question about a document from last December." Elena froze. She spilled everything. Lydia paid her $1,000 to stamp the form, claiming I was too sick to sign in person. Ethan's footage from the convenience store showed the handoff clear as day. Our 45-page dossier was a masterpiece. My deed, hospital records proving I was under anesthesia, Elena's revoked notary status, drone photos, emails, her confession, and the video. A local podcast, Justice Unearthed, broke the story, and by Saturday, it was viral. Pine Hollow was furious, flooding the county with calls. Lydia's smug press release calling me a disgruntled squatter-only fan the flames. 6 weeks after the demolition, I returned to Willow Creek with Mike and Ethan. Ethan clipped a tiny mic to my collar. "Just in case," he grinned. We parked down the road and walked up. A security guard, Vince, tried to block us, but Lydia's sedan rolled in. Her smirk was gone, replaced by a tight frown. "You're trespassing, Mr. Larson," she snapped. I held up the dossier. "This is about your illegal demolition of my cabin," I said, voice calm, "and the development on my land." She laughed, but it was brittle. "You forfeited it. We have the papers." I opened the binder. "Forged papers. Your notary's license was revoked. No demolition permit. Your HOA's a fake, tied to your brother-in-law's company." Her face paled. I kept going. We have Elena's testimony, the payoff video, your emails. As I spoke, 2 FBI SUVs rolled up. Ethan, in a tactical vest, flashed his badge. Agents arrested Lydia for wire fraud, mail fraud, and identity theft. Her clipboard hit the dirt as she stammered. He's just some old man. The lead agent glanced at the scarred land. You demolished federal property. That's a felony. The fallout was swift. The fake HOA dissolved, Victor's equipment impounded, accounts frozen. Victims got $1.2 million in refunds. Lydia pleaded guilty, got 20 months, and owed restitution. The county issued new oversight rules, dubbed the Larson Act. My cabin. A contractor, Nate, a kid I'd taught wiring years ago, rallied the community to rebuild it for free. Every weekend, neighbors brought lumber, nails, and food, rebuilding not just a cabin, but a community. They formed a voluntary council, no dues, just neighborly trust. The cabin was finished by fall 2025, a perfect replica. I flipped on the porch light, a warm glow against the dusk. It wasn't just a light, it was a declaration. We're still here. Inside, I hung a plaque Ethan carved from the old dock. Built right, stays right. My dad's words. He taught me to do things properly, even when no one's watching. That's how we won out with rage, but with facts, patience, and a paper trail. They took the boards, but not the land. Not the legacy. What do you think? Could you take on a machine like Lydia's? How far would you go to protect what's yours? What's a legacy worth to you? Drop a comment, hit like, and subscribe. You're just getting started.